Hey everybody, welcome to Surface Level, creating a community where Black and queer folks are fearless in thought and curious at heart. I'm one of your hosts, Jordan, and today, Tony, Damon, and I are discussing the state of LGBTQ rights in Nigeria. How can we develop pride when being gay is illegal? How can we ensure that African queer stories don't go untold? This is the Nigerian Underground. All right, you guys.
We're back.
We are back. We are back.
For another week.
For another week, the second week. So we are going to have a very enlightening conversation today. And we have a very special guest who's here from Nigeria. So very excited to have that conversation.
Surface Level goes international.
Very international.
International girls.
But, you know, we want to start with a game first before we jump into this conversation today. And ironically, our guest is also a podcast host.
Great.
So I thought it would be fun if we played a game on what's more annoying in terms of having a podcast. All right. What's more annoying? Recording season one's audio in Damon's living room, or traveling through a rainstorm to get to our recording studio?
The rain.
The rain.
Traveling through a rainstorm I was in the rainstorm.
Oh,
When we recorded with Lola, and I was soaking wet the entire time. And it was the summer, sitting under the AC. I basically got pneumonia for Surface Level.
I do remember that.
It was horrible.
See, you girls and your natural hair. See, that's when being bald counts.
Well, we were together and we were at the wine shop, and it was coming down raining, and we were just like, "Where's Damon?"
Right, I knew she would be miserable.
Walking with no umbrella.
Yeah, but for me, it was probably the audio. I mean, we had to do what we had to do, and we had to record in Damon's end, but it was also just the fireworks that were just never ending.
Oh yeah, that summer.
Yeah, that summer.
I would say that recording season one's audio in Damon's living room was more annoying.
A midnight summer's nightmare.
I bet if y'all had been sitting in here soaking wet, you say something different.
I would have been fine the day after.
Ciao.
I still got to listen to season one to this day.
And be reminded of the audio we didn't have, the audio quality we didn't have.
All right. What's more annoying? Shooting an entire season's worth of promotional photos in one day, or taking the photos ourselves with a tripod?
Taking the photos ourselves. That was crazy.
Taking the photos ourselves was a project because we were in, real environments. We weren't in the studio. We were out.
It was COVID. We couldn't be in
the field. Right. And so going to different locations and pulling that all together was quite a feat. Yeah.
See, I would say doing all the shots in one day, that was very stressful.
What were you stressed about?
It was just so many things to consider. It was so many moving parts. At least with when we were shooting it ourselves, we were just sort of like, okay, we're going to do one photo today. That's our activity for today. Go to the basketball court.
Well, yeah, we were at a different pace. Being in the studio, doing it all at once was giving very much like another club, no sleep.
Another club.
All right. What's more annoying? Saying something or accidentally saying something problematic on the podcast, or being confronted for saying something controversial in real life?
Well, I think if we accidentally say something problematic, we can edit that right on out. So I think it would have to be someone maybe confronting us about our what we've said on the podcast, but I also don't give a fuck.
You run up on me,
it's given I said what I said. Period. We can have a debate. We can have a conversation about it, but you're not about to be like trying to fight me over anything I said. pointing your crusty fingers in my face. No, not at all.
Damon.
If somebody's trying to run up on me, that's not going to go well.
Okay.
For them.
Yeah, I would say somebody confronted me in real life as well. Like I don't have time to be defending myself in these streets. All right, and the last thing, what's more annoying? Retelling the origin story of the podcast in every interview, or having people ask you to talk to them like they're on the podcast.
Talk to them like they're on the podcast.
Talk to me like I'm on surface level. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether to find it flattering or to be like, well, I'm not a therapist for one. I'm not licensed, but the way I'm talking to you is the way I would answer you if I was talking about it on the podcast. It doesn't change. I'm not one.
Yeah,
I'm
not
not
one
one
person.
differently. Yeah, I'm not one person here at the surface level table and a different person when we're out and
You pull out note cards in regular life too. You just
Oh well, I have the note cards are mental when I'm talking this. They're mental note cards
Off the dome. Yeah.
Yes.
I would say talk to me like we're on the podcast, because I'm just like, I don't really want to chime in on this conversation, but you feel like you have to sometimes. To feel like a person wants you to like be present. I'm like, I didn't agree to this conversation, so that's the difference between here and the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have found that people, when they talk to us, or one of us, all three of us, they feel like they're on the podcast. But it's just like, I don't know what that's about, but that's very interesting. Very interesting.
All right.
Ciao. Okay. So today, Surface Level is going a little international for the first time and having a discussion that we're really excited about. So we're going to start personal before we bring in our guest. So we wanted the first question. Are anti-gay laws or cultures that aren't really accepting of queer people, how does that impact places you go in the world, where you travel? Is it important to you? Tony?
So this, for me, I would say it's a little bit of yes and no. Because when I travel abroad, there are instances where I want to go abroad and be very gay. And in those instances, I choose to go places and be intentional about it, like Barcelona, for example, because I don't want to have the fear of being attacked for just living my life and living out loud.
Right.
But I have been to places, and I think we all have been to places where it's not socially acceptable. So, for example, Dubai is one of those places, and Jamaica is another one of those places. And when I travel to those places, or if I was to travel to another country like that, I wouldn't feel comfortable unless I was staying at a resort, or if I was traveling with a large group of people. When I went to Dubai, we stayed in an Airbnb, but it was a large group of us. So you feel like in numbers, there's protection. Or the third is that if I was traveling with someone that was from the destination, or someone lives at the destination that I'm meeting up, that they're going to be my tour guide. But interestingly enough, in Dubai, it seemed that people hid in plain sight. So right, I think that that's like, I saw acts of what would be considered homosexuality, and I was so confused because it seemed like, I think that the hiding in plain sight is like a form of some sort of like reverse psychology. It's like where people...
They were very touchy, right? Just like guys cuddled up, but I didn't assume that they were gay.
That's how I felt in Morocco, but I think part of it is like the culture. Like male
like
intimacy physically doesn't necessarily mean that someone's queer.
Right. But it's risky business. So I have something to read to you guys that I found.
It's time for the segment. I hope y'all are watching our new videos, because
listen to this because the theatrics.
Well, you need your bifocals when you got to read something. But what I found is that through just a little bit of research is all sexual activities outside of heterosexual marriage, including consensual same-sex relations, is illegal in the United Arab Emirates and carries a penalty of confinement with a minimum period of a year. And Dubai has a provision that allows up to 10 years for same-sex intimacy, while Abu Dhabi takes it and carries it even further to up to 14 years for sodomy. And a lot of other countries have these same laws. And so...
Yeah, I think it's like 70 countries currently, or at least in the most recent report that I saw, that was last year, was saying 70 countries.
Yeah.
Like I have like a similar experience. I went to Dubai, and I'm not going to add too much more to that other than I went when Dubai was like the hot spot, because everybody got those tickets that was $200. So
that flight
deal. I went to South Africa.
You were smart.
On a flight deal?
Yeah.
See, I didn't...
Those were the two destinations. It was Dubai, or people were flying into Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And then it was Johannesburg, right?
But then I kept going to Cape Town.
Got it. So you went to Johannesburg. I went to Dubai. It was cheaper. When I got to JFK, it was Soul Plane. I knew about 10 people on that flight. I actually went to a party at an Airbnb with all black gay guys from Harlem.
The girls were trying to go to jail.
In Dubai. No, I wasn't going to go to jail because they actually, while we were there, they were like, yeah, we're about to go to this club. We're about to go to this like underground club. I said, bitch, right? Who's going there?
The girls.
Who's giving that? So I stayed at the house and I was like, y'all can go and try that. I'm not really interested in doing that. I need to make it back to New York. They came back in like an hour because the girls couldn't come in because they had on sleeveless shirts. They had to put on shirts with sleeves. I said, so y'all are already trying it. It's just already starting.
You had to dress very conservatively depending on where you were going. And certain things like that would rule you out from being able to enter certain places.
But like, I think for me, like getting back to the original question, it impacts it to a certain extent, right? Like I feel like if I'm going to a place where I want to be liberated and around my people and pride and all those things, yeah, it's important that like the country has protections for those communities. But there are places that, you know, I just sort of want to experience them even though they have anti-gay laws. So I really wanted to go to Petra, which is a it's like I always have a hard time with this word, archaeological site. And it's in the country of Jordan, very close to Tel Aviv. That's where I did the day trip from. Anti-gay. But
which place was anti-gay?
Jordan.
And Tel Aviv is?
Israel is fine.
Okay,
got Israel it. Actually has, Tel Aviv has one of the biggest prides.
Huge pride there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good.
We're supposed to be going to that.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, for me, it impacts it, but there's some places where I just want to experience it and I'm okay with, you know, not acting on homosexual acts during the time out of safety for myself. But yeah, I don't make a huge practice out of it. I usually try to go to places that I can go out and be with my people.
Let your hair down.
Yeah.
I also think like everything that you interact with, go to, you're impacting it financially and economically. And like, I don't necessarily want to spend dollars in a place where I'm not actually welcome.
That's another thing.
And I feel that way. But I feel that way in like life generally when it comes to like artists that say things I don't like. I don't want to spend my money supporting them. Like to me, it's the same concept.
They lose out on a lot of money, a lot of gay dollars.
Hello? That's a lot, baby.
So just segueing into our guest a bit, I think one of the things that we really wanted to note, like as American citizens, we've been protesting, we've been fighting for rights as queer people in this country for a long time. Some have been realized as far as queer marriage, as far as most times not being able to just walk outside and be yourself. And I think that it's amazing for us to have those things, even though we're not where we need to be. But I also think we need to recognize some of the hurdles that are happening in other places in the world. So we really, based on a documentary we saw, found this amazing guy, and Tony's going to bring him in and introduce him.
Yes. So we are really excited because, as we've been saying, we have our first international episode of Surface Level. And today we have the host of QueerCity podcast, Nigeria's first weekly LGBTQ lifestyle podcast, which educates and tells the stories of Nigeria's underground, queer, and nonconformist community. And where we found them is through an incredible documentary that Damon was just talking about on HBO Max called The Legend of the Underground. I suggest and highly recommend you all go watch because it was quite just eye-opening. So today we welcome OKTimileyin, or affectionately known as Timi, to our Surface Level family.
Hi everyone at Surface Level.
Hi, Timi.
Hello.
All right. So before we get into the interview, Timi, what we typically like to do is just ask you a couple of questions, just fun questions, quick questions to get to know you as a person, and then we can get into the interview. So they're going to be a series of this or that. So what do you prefer, Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
Okay. Would you rather receive a text message or a phone call?
Text me, please.
No phone calls.
Unless you're dying.
Unless
It needs to be an emergency. Okay, I feel that. Monogamy or polygamy?
I'm polyamorous.
Nice.
Yes, okay. Never use your phone again or never use your computer again?
Never use my computer again.
Right. Tattoos or piercings?
Okay, I'm scared of needles, so neither.
I plead the fifth. Be average in everything or be exceptional at one thing?
Well, if the beach can be exceptional at one thing, I will do it all over well and well again.
Watch TV or listen to music?
Music all the way.
Yes.
Would you rather be able to see into the future or change the past?
See into the future, the past can do itself.
Nice.
And our last question, what are you curious about?
The future, that's why I want to see it.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, we are. And Timi, I want to start here because we were just talking a lot about traveling internationally and the laws that some countries have. We talked about how 70 countries have, or around about 70 countries have laws where homosexual acts can be punishable for up to 14 years. And so specifically in Nigeria, we want to ask you, as it pertains to that law of, you can be thrown in jail for up to 14 years for just being who you are. Why do you think that such laws have been upheld for so long?
So, there are lots of factors that have contributed to where we are now when it comes to LGBTIQ laws in Nigeria, right? Initially, Nigeria used to be a space where queerness was not a thing. When I say not a thing in the sense that nobody cared if you were queer, nobody cared how you present, right? Our native languages have pronouns in the third person pronoun they. They don't even directly call anybody he or she, right? But with colonialism and slave trade, loads of things came in. During colonialism, we had penal laws, right, which are just like, they were just literally copy and paste from the British law around LGBTIQ persons, around people who were considered to be homosexuals and, participating in sodomy. So Nigerian law literally around the LGBTIQ person literally had its roots in colonial laws, right? That's the penal code. And till now, Nigeria or Africa entirely, we are still unlearning colonization. We're still unlearning the ways we have been taught. We're still unlearning, we're still finding ourselves as Africans, as Nigerians. We are just tracing our steps back. So that's one of the reasons. And I hope someday hypocrisy, would go off the land and we'll be able to move forward.
Yeah, and speaking of finding yourself, because we know that if you're in the queer community, regardless, we all have struggles, but you have just a completely different set of struggles living in Nigeria that are just far worse than what it is here in the United States. But when you talk about that, if you're willing, we would love to hear from you, your coming out story. If you could share that with us, I think that would be great for just people to hear what it was like for you to come out in Nigeria.
It happened in 2018 when I had my first quote-unquote scandal. Somebody I was dating got into a mess. He was kidnapped.
Oh, wow.
And during this kidnap, police came to the rescue. During the investigation, they were going through his phone. They discovered he had a male lover, which happens to be me. And then they called his parents. His mom called my mom, like, do you know your son is gay? That was literally my first time I had to have that conversation with my mother, right? And at that point, I just told my mom that, okay, you know what? Yes, I am gay, but this person in question is my ex, and we're not dating. We broke up like 3 days ago. All of this mess is none of my business, right? And that was the first time the conversation around my sexuality was brought to the table. Earlier than then, it was not brought to the table, but there were murmurs around it. And there's something about coming out in Nigeria. You can't just come out if you're not ready. Being ready is being financially ready. Being ready is being emotionally ready, being mentally ready. Being in the space where if you get kicked out, you can afford to get yourself out. Nigeria's level of insecurity is too high. Nobody's going to take you into their homes, kinda. People are skeptical. You don't, there are lots of reasons people won't take you in. The safe houses are not really running, they're not really functioning. So it's like, if you're coming out on your risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just building a community. So when I was done with university, I graduated earlier this year. I had saved some money. So I moved in with my partner, and I just came back, told my mom, like, okay, hi, madam. I'm going to come and see you tomorrow. I think I'm ready for this conversation. And then I went back home, and I just told her, you don't need to cry. I don't want to see tears, because tears are not needed. I don't know why you're crying. So you have to take away the tears and let's talk as adults. It's okay for me not to be the child you want me to be when I am being the person I am meant to be.
Right.
And I just told my mother, this is me, check around. Oh, as queer as I am, I'm quite hardworking. I'm getting my things done. My queerness is not the reason why I'm not being successful. My queerness is not a reason why. Although I might not have the privileges in my society, I might have to live underground. I might have to navigate inward my community to find a space for myself, to find a job for myself, to find a life for myself, right? That's okay. That might be what I have to do. That might be the price. But then, here we are. So I came out to my mother earlier this year, just a few weeks before the Lady of the Underground came out, because I need that come out. She might see it, and
Yeah.
And we just had that conversation, and that was it.
Wow.
And finally, we are very cool, very, very cool.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. And thank
Yeah.
you so much for sharing that. That means a lot.
Turning inward, speaking specifically about the queer community, also in the documentary, there's this dynamic between, there's one of the cast members, James Brown, who is flamboyant, femme character, and he essentially becomes a social media sensation. Yes. And there's this debate.
James Brown was fierce.
And there's this debate among some of the other cast members in the documentary saying, this person does not represent us. Mm-hmm. Why is this person becoming the most popular one or the character that everyone's buying into? So we wanted to know your thoughts, and that's a debate often that happens also in the States. I think that sometimes we're critical, not the three of us, but people in our community are critical of hyperfemininity and when it becomes very popular. So we wanted to know, why do you think there is this resistance to more flamboyant characters and personalities being at the forefront of these movements?
Okay, so in Nigeria, I don't think hyperfemininity or being flamboyant in the sense of your expression, right, is the reason why people do not consider you as a figure of representation to the community. It's about you standing with the community. What are you doing with the platform you have? Mm-hmm. What is the level of representation you are bringing to the upbuilding or the upcoming or the building up movements, right? In the case of James Brown, I think the conversation in the community, the debate in the community is, what is James Brown doing with James Brown's platform? Is James Brown representing the community as they should or as he should? Or is James Brown, throwing people under the bus, right? By fully, like when they're having their court cases, James Brown was online, also enjoying the charity of social media. In as much as nobody's entitled to James Brown's time, James Brown's platform, that period, other people's life was attached to James Brown. And I think the issue there was the fact that James Brown did not recognize the fact that it's not about myself at this point. Probably after their court case now, if James Brown is doing anything, it's nobody's issue. But during the court case, people were scared of what James Brown was saying, because online, James Brown was literally saying, I'm not gay, but I like men, literally giving off the vibe of what they could consider concrete evidences that the police could use to throw them in jail.
Yeah.
So it was the fear of James Brown. Giving police or giving the government something to hold on to that was literally people's fear. It's not about James Brown hyper-femininity. No. It's not about James Brown being flamboyant. It's just, what do you do with that space that you own?
Let's give it Erica Jane.
And I think that happens a lot when people ascend to a certain level of popularity, and when you have a following and you represent a marginalized community, it becomes this platform, and that people are looking at you like you have the platform. Mm-hmm. You maybe not by choice, are now representing us. And so when Timi explained it that way, I can see why that would be the sentiment.
Yeah. It reminded me of Erica Jane. They were like, girl, stop posting your lingerie right now. This is not the time.
I kind of want to know, Timi, how you feel about, your podcast. The platform is growing both, domestically and globally. You were, featured in the HBO documentary that we've all watched, and that is available to anybody in the US with a HBO Max subscription. Is there ever any fear that you becoming more public with your identity can cause some potential risk for you?
So I would say this, and I hope nobody screams. So in the past 3 same years that have been my journey of coming to self, I'd had to live in 6 cities, literally 6 Nigerian cities. I've had to move periodically because, like I said, I live out as queer, loud, and proud. And that's because of my work. I have a community that calls me Queer Daddy. I have people who are texting me every now and then, Timi, this is happening, I'm kidnapped, I have bills to pay, I have this is happening, that is happening. All of this are around me in such a way that I don't even see my fears because there are too many needs to be met.
Yeah. Wow.
It's like the needs are beyond the fears.
Yeah.
But I'd rather be caught trying to save a queer man from dying than be caught putting off my microphone because I'm scared of not dying.
Woo. That's
powerful.
Very powerful. And kudos to you, just for having the courage and the fear to. I think there's a calling for people who are at the front lines for issues like this, and you're one of those people that you have a calling on your life. And no, seriously,
Tony has a word.
It's giving me very much like. There's only like you're born to be that person, to do this thing, and no one else, like it's you. And so thank you, and we support you, and we just look forward to you continuing to go on this journey. But in talking about that, like, you are doing the work. And you're doing the work to make sure that West African queer stories are being told through your podcast. And so we want to know from you, what is the most rewarding thing about producing QueerCity?
Ooh, what I say is, so, like I said, I have a list of people around me. not until lately, I never picked up the pen and paper to count my blessings around QueerCity. And of course, I would say QueerCity is a vision of myself. We're growing now. We just rented our studio space a few days ago.
Congrats.
And yeah, thank you. It's an extension of my, I just think it's an extension of my life rather than my work, right? So if I were talking about how producing QueerCity has really helped me, I'll say for my introverted self, it had helped me learn networking. It has helped me feel safer in the world that, okay, you can stick your neck out sometimes and see if anything would happen. But, well, nothing is going to happen. So, yes, we did it. So that would be literally the most rewarding part, the fact that I get to stick my neck out.
Yeah. It's you get on the other side of fear. It's like you have the fear, and when you accomplish that thing, it's like, okay, now what? What's next?
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about all the contributions you've made to your community. What are some things that we can do and other people internationally that get more exposure to you? What can we do to help with queer liberation, the movement towards queer liberation in Nigeria?
Well, there are lots of things people can do. One of the best things you're doing is this you're doing right here on Surface Level Podcast. Thank you all so much. That is sharing our narratives. Just bringing our stories to people's ears is the first step to whatever you want to do to support us, right? Having to tell people that we exist in a place where literally a former Nigerian president said, no gay people in Nigeria. So you people telling our story, you're supporting us by telling people we exist, right? That's the first way. And I would say also by supporting the work down here, loads of organizations are starting up, and I'm saying like non-generic organization. When I say generic organization, in Nigeria, due to the anti-Lgbtiq law, most organizations operate under HIV care and a little bit of human rights, but then LGBT rights. It's just human rights, inclusive of human rights in our media. But now organizations like QueerCity here, we're standing up to say, okay, we are strictly an LGBTIQ media house, and all we do is just LGBTIQ media in Nigeria, in West Africa. There is one by my friend, Matthew. Oasis project is about queer welfare and about welfare of queer folks in Nigeria. Oasis creates space for us to meet. So all of this are how you can support us. And if you really want to support me personally and the work in QueerCity, we're currently trying to produce Bamanga. Bamanga is a film documentary about the mother of a Nigerian trans woman in 2018. She was killed and buried in her own room in 2018. So I'm trying to produce Bamanga, which is a film documentary documenting this, because one of the things we face in Nigeria is media silence, and it's really a thing. The media is really silent about what is happening to the LGBTIQ community. We're getting kidnapped daily, we're getting killed, but nobody's going to say anything about it because the police is going to be silent. Nobody's going to say anything. So Bamanga is literally a documentary that will just document that woman's life. So if you want to support that, our GoFundMe is on our website, www.QueerCityPodcast.com. You'll see the donate button. You could do that if you want to. And also sending us periodic emails of "we see you." That is it too. We really appreciate that. No, we really do.
It's the small things that also.
Because I tell people that to support the work we do down here is not really much. 3 years, 4 years into QueerCity is literally close to little financial support for myself, right? I've had to like do all of this far. So I will literally tell people that your financial support is not really the big thing because it didn't bring me this far, right? But what really is the thing is me seeing the fact that, okay, there's a community out there that got my back regardless of what I'm doing. So let's go all out because there is a community somewhere. There are people somewhere who cares. There is this assurance of, oh, if anything goes wrong, I got people who could, come for me and be like, oh yeah, I recognize with this person, regardless of the position they are writing. Because as a queer person in Nigeria or as a queer activist, one of our greatest fear is the fact that when something happens to you and nobody is willing to identify with you at that period because they are scared of, transference or whatever you're facing. So those are ways you can support us. And yeah, listen to our podcast. New shows are coming by next year. We're hoping to expand. So yeah, just support us. That's the best way.
Yes. Well, you definitely have a community here at Surface Level. We will definitely be supporting and looking out for you and sending in those occasional emails because we see you.
Well, thank you. We typically ask upcoming projects and things, but I think you've covered all the amazing things that you're working on and how people can get involved with QueerCity and the work you're doing. So that's all the time we have this week. This season of Surface Level is produced in partnership with Moby, Mobilizing Our Brothers Initiative. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going. Let us know your thoughts and questions at surfacelevelpodcast.com. And remember, stay curious.